Chef Life Radio is on the air. That's right. That's right. Welcome back, everybody. Blackberry Smoke. Believe you me, and if you haven't heard their album, Like an Arrow, you gotta check it out. The last table is served. The station is broken down. Everything is labeled and put away. Your inventory is complete. And now it's time to meet me on the back dock, where all the most important meetings are held. Take a deep breath and enjoy a job well done.
We Chef!
We're about facilitating change in our current culinary career culture. Try to say that 3 times fast. We at Chef Life Radio believe that working in a kitchen should be demanding. It just shouldn't have to be demeaning. It should be hard, just doesn't have to be harsh. We believe that it's possible to have more solidarity and less suck it up sunshine, more compassion, less cutthroat island. We believe in more partnership and less put up or shut up, more family, less fuck you.
We Chef.
Hey, how about a nice glass of Pedialyte? What do you say? Feeling fuzzy? This will clear you right up. What do you say, we?
You jackass!
We drop new episodes the first Sunday of every month. You can also subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, and now Google Play. You can catch us on Facebook at Chef Life Radio, on Twitter at Chef Life Radio. That's right. Chef Life Radio is a production of Foodworks Incorporated, providing a safe haven for culinary professionals who want to grow and move forward in their career and life. This episode is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audio download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Chef Life Radio. Great stuff, ready for download. Get clear, get ahead at audibletrial.com/Chef Life Radio. The Heirloom Foundation, a not-for-profit organization advocating for healthier work environments through their networks of chefs, restaurateurs, and other industry stakeholders who commit to providing a healthy, supportive restaurant culture. Don't just carp about how shitty things are. Take action and support your brothers and sisters at theheirloomfoundation.org. chefswithissues.com. Enough said, right? For fuck's sake, man. Don't suffer in silence. Resources, solutions, and kind hand up all can be found at chefswithissues.com. Why? Because someone somewhere gives a fuck whether you live successfully or die before your time. And we welcome our newest partner, Entrepreneurial Chef Magazine. From idea to open for business. EntrepreneurialChef.com is building an online community where entrepreneurs in the industry can share lessons, best practices, and actionable advice for greater lasting success. Visit EntrepreneurialChef.com, join the club, and get your free copy of The 10 Rules of Entrepreneurship. In this episode, we talked to Joel Salatin of Polyface Farms, and if the name is new to you, well, let me tell you, you're in for a treat. He not only runs one of the most progressive, low-tech, biodiverse operations in the world, but he's a bit of a raconteur. He's been labeled by some in the government as an eco-terrorist, since all of the birds on his farm are raised without antibiotics and hormones, and as such pose a threat to neighboring farms should the birds find love elsewhere, if you know what I mean. Me and B saw him speak in Monterey, Virginia, and he was engaging, enlightening, and thought-provoking. Having said all that, instead of starting with a couple of chef quotes, we thought we'd let Joel's words start us off. The first quote is, "Outrageous behavior, also known as the lunatic fringe, is the seedbed of innovation and creativity." And to that, I say, oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yes, chef.
That ought to be our stewardship mandate, to create Edens wherever we go. That's why humans are here. Our responsibility is to extend forgiveness into the landscape. If we fail to appreciate the soul that Easternism gives us, then what we have is a disconnected, Greco-Roman, Western, egocentric, compartmentalized, reductionist, fragmented, linear thought process that counts on cleverness. Lastly, he would describe himself as, "I'm a Christian, libertarian, environmentalist, capitalist lunatic." It's a humorous way for me to describe that I'm not stereotypical. That's all by our guest today, Joel Salatin of Polyface Farms, and we'll have the interview a bit later in the show. If we're going to be talking to Joel about his operation, I thought I should tell you another kind of story of another kind of operation. A little while ago, I took a tour of a packing plant in Fort Morgan, Colorado, with a few other chefs put together by my very good friend, Brendan Flanagan. I could get into much detail about the actual site visit, but suffice it to say it was an operation of massive proportions where nothing but nothing goes to waste. Inside the meatpacking plant, I watched an army of intent Latinos with lightning reflexes, flash knives, and hand hooks as they unhurriedly worked in concert, keeping up with the incessant rumbling of the conveyor belt. I saw buckets of esophaguses that the company ships to another wholly owned subsidiary pharmaceutical company that makes arthritis medicine. Skin, skulls, eyes, intestines, they all get used in some way. It's an odd sort of integrity that the cattle are respected in a way where there's nothing left to chance or waste, instead of just taking what's needed at the time or what's more valuable and leaving the rest to rot. As a percentage, I probably throw out more food in my fridge at home than the plant operators do in any given day. The plant even went so far as to hire a famous savant to assess the path that the cattle take through the facility. The animals were becoming anxious in the holding pens, releasing large amounts of lactic acid into the muscles, resulting in tough meat. The woman got on her hands and knees, just like a cow, crawling the path that they take towards becoming steaks. She found several areas which she said, if improved, would allow the cows to be more calm and serene on their way to be killed. The processing plant redesigned the pens, spiral path, and assembly procedures to implement the savant's suggestions. Apparently she was right, because the cows now go to their death with nary a sound. There are families to be fed, after all.
I was sitting around picking just my pops and me when his friend walked up in a cab
Yeah. Whiskey Myers, guitar picker. It was an eye-opening experience. It was impossible to shut my eyes to the efficiency of the killing machine and the vacant stares of the cows waiting in line for their fate. Later after the tour, we were escorted to a local cafeteria where the menu prominently featured, yep, you guessed it, beef. The burger I ordered wasn't easily going down past the knot left in my throat by the site visit and the memories of what I had witnessed. The feedlots showed a more distressing side of the whole factory farming process. After speaking with the foreman and watching these modern-day cowboys tending to the pens filled with cattle, they're only to be fed and fattened before slaughter, I got the impression that these men were serious, sober fellows who attend to their business in a serious manner. They do what they think is right in a manner befitting the task, as gruesome as it might be to some. It's a tricky business feeding the masses, and there have been many lean times for the folks in the cattle pipeline. There are very few years when each of the links in the beef chain, mating, birthing ranchers, feedlot operators, or processing plants, makes money consistently. There are cryptic formulations used to measure the potential yield of an animal, and there's little guarantee that the animal will make it all the way from mother to market. If, after all the care and feeding of a particular animal, it stumbles and is unable to make it from the truck through the pens up the winding pathway to the knock box, USDA regulations state that the animal must be euthanized and discarded. There is no helping an unstable animal to its doom. Notwithstanding the philosophical debate about whether the animals are being treated humanely, if we're looking for someone to blame for the conditions that the cows are raised and ultimately processed in, we need to look no further than our reflection in the mirror. We're to blame. We've gotten used to quick service, inexpensive prices, and year-round availability. Providers are merely filling our needs as we've defined them by our shopping and consumption patterns. If there is to be change, for whatever reason, then we as individuals get to take responsibility and initiate that change by the habits that we keep. Habits, by their very nature, exist without our conscious thought. Therefore, when the shift occurs, it must come from a conscious choice, which, made often enough in the same manner, creates a new habit. But this time one formed of informed consent and affirmation. It's the height of hypocrisy to believe that we, as a nation, can wolf down 1 million cheap burgers a year and not know that it all started out west on the high plains of Colorado, with a cow walking off a semi-tractor trailer on its way just up the ramp to the knock box. Tony Spinner, someone who is less concerned about looking for answers than creating solutions. Our guest, Joel Salatin. He sat down with me for a frank and transparent conversation, and rather than me try to give some lame-ass introduction, I'll just let him do the talking. Okay, so I'd like to welcome to the show provocateur and agent of change, Joel Salatin. Mr. Salatin, thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Now, Joel, for anyone who's perhaps lived under a rock for the last, say, 15 years, can you bring them up to speed about what you're doing and how Polyface Farms fits into that?
Oh well, I'm here in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, and I'm on a farm that my parents bought in 1961. I was just 4 years old at the time. It was a rock pile, gullies and rock pile in the cheapest, kind of the armpit place of the community. That's why they bought it, because it was cheap. And over the years, we've gradually healed that up, stopped the erosion, built ponds, increased soil, got the rocks soiled over, and today we supply about 6,000 families, 50 restaurants, a farmer's market, an electronic local foods aggregator, and of course sell here at the farm and support about 20 families in a pastured livestock type of farm. So it's been productive and very exciting.
I've heard you say that. I actually had the good fortune of listening to a live presentation to you not too long ago in up the road in Monterey, in Highland County, and I had been following your work ever since probably, the omnivore's dilemma, which I'm sure a lot of the listeners are familiar with. But you often refer to yourself as a grass farmer, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the idea is that, when people say, well, you've sure been clever. Actually, the principles that we followed have been fairly simple and not very many of them. When you look at nature and you look at how things work, you realize that it's first of all, there's no animal-less ecology. So all healthy ecologies have animals, And guess what? Those animals move. They don't stay stationary. They don't stay in the same place. They're not locked up in buildings. So as soon as you integrate animals with the ecology, and then you have animals that can move, now you have to have movable infrastructure, water, shelter, control mechanisms, and the basis of those animals is always grass, or sometimes we would call it prairie. And in fact, all of the great, deep, rich soils on the planet were built not under trees or bushes, but under prairie, because grass is more efficient at converting solar energy into biomass than anything else. So the herbivores, of course, prune the prairie. So that means it's primarily focused on perennials, not annuals. They have to be planted every year, but perennials, grasses that grow all the time. Fertility comes from carbon on site, not carbon off site. Nature doesn't move carbon very far, so we've got to figure out how to close that solar loop of biomass to decomposition to regeneration, on site. And then nature tends to not move things too far, so we're big on local centric systems. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't buy coffee or bananas or whatever, but as much as possible, if it can be grown locally, it should be grown and consumed and and sold locally as well. And so local centric systems. And then I would say finally that good systems are people centric. As opposed to machine-centric. And when we go to a people-centric system, it puts more eyes and accountability on the system, which actually, creates more inherent integrity in the system as opposed to just a mechanical situation where there aren't any eyes or personal involvement with the system. So those are fairly simple, but when you start looking at them, they're pretty profound
and pretty dynamic. The way that they the way that they interplay with one another. I'd heard you once describe that that lovely Shenandoah Valley, or that portion of the Shenandoah Valley where you do your farming, kind of like as a food shed, where you once refused to send somebody some product that was over 4 hours away because, as far as you were concerned, that was kind of outside the maximum operating capacity of the farm. Would that be correct?
Yes. Yeah, we don't go beyond 4 miles from the farm. That's arbitrary. There's nothing moral or immoral about that. It's just our arbitrary circle that we've drawn. And what it does is it makes sure that all of our customers can get here and back in a day. It makes sure that our delivery drivers don't have to spend the night on the road. They can get back to their families. There's a lot of benefits to kind of drawing that arbitrary circle. Now, it doesn't mean that if I were in Montana or Idaho or Wyoming or something and it was 100 miles to a Coke machine that I would do the same thing.
Sure.
I think some of these things are relative, but you get the idea.
I certainly do. And some of our listeners might be a bit perplexed while I brought you on the show. As a matter of fact, you're our very first non-chef guest that we've had on Chef Life Radio. But as the show has progressed, we've realized the desire and the need to bring on guests who would perhaps maybe challenge the status quo, or at least offer up some questions that we as professionals need to start asking ourselves. And I want to kind of like, I don't want to be an apologist, but I have to call myself out on the carpet and say that I have been part of an integral part of an industry that has brought a lot of our systems in nature to the brink of collapse in an unsustainable manner. I've been a chef for over 35 years, and for a long time, either I didn't give a shit or I was just unaware, and I don't know how many others there are out there in the audience, but I'm just going to say, Joel, what is it that I don't get? Because if we continue the way we're going, there's going to be a world of hurt for a lot of folks. So is there any, what can I learn from a farmer like you about my business?
Well, I think the main thing you can learn from a farmer like me is that the closer your relationship with your food sourcing, the more skilled you will be. Maybe we could even call it the more discerning you will be, the more wise you will be in your sourcing. I can assure you, I mean, we supply like 50 restaurants, and I can assure you that we don't whine about it every day, but now that you and I can talk openly here.
Yes, please, let's.
One of our biggest frustrations is that we have a restaurant that gets 15 chickens a week from us, puts us on the little chalkboard local source, and then gets 200 chickens off the Cisco truck.
Right.
And so chefs or we lose chefs because, well, look, I need my chickens, within a tenth of a pound of weight of each other in order to, do plate costs and all that stuff. Well, we don't have a warehouse of 1 million chickens to be able to search through and pick so that we can get yours within a tenth of a pound.
Right.
Some weeks they're bigger, some weeks they're smaller. We have weather issues. Sometimes the weather's not very good. The chickens grow a little bit, are not as robust. Yep. And sometimes the weather's perfect and the chickens are just, they're really nice. And so, our need is we need chefs who are truly committed to where, whatever, a little more a pound or a little more a dozen eggs or whatever is not going to, destroy them, where they're really committed to it. And number two, where they're willing to meet us halfway, realizing that we don't have all the options that a Cisco truck has. Now, in a lot of ways, we offer more options. We can custom do things that you couldn't get, from a Cisco truck. But generally, we need folks who are committed to the local, committed to top quality, and are willing to to follow through with it. We one of our biggest issues is chefs want broken down chickens. They want boneless, skinless breast or whatever.
Right.
They don't want to do kitchen prep.
Sure.
Well, the reason the industry can sell those at a very, very cheap price is because they do everything mechanically and oftentimes with illegal labor. And I don't want to get into a big discussion about immigration or whatever, but we use all legal workman comp, FICA withheld. All right, I mean our labor is the real deal, and at our slaughterhouse, everybody's getting $15 an hour, and they're skilled. And we do everything by hand. It's not we're not beating pink slime off a beef carcass with a bunch of beater fingers. And so this level of care and skill, we can't do it any cheaper than you can do it in a kitchen prep.
Right.
And so the thing is to become very creative about using whole animals, using all the things in the kitchen, so that, look, either you use the whole chicken, or we've got to figure out something to do with a bunch of necks and backs and legs. Yep. And I'm just using it as an example. And so when a chef wants nothing but breasts, then obviously, we have to deal with the rest of that chicken. What we beg is, or what we find that really works for us, is to work with chefs who say, hey, I'll take the whole chicken and we'll do some different kinds of recipes, different kind of menu items, and we'll move we'll use the whole thing. And kind of the nose to tail idea.
Yep. Go ahead, please finish. Yeah.
Yeah, and when chefs do that, and then that's when we hug them and kiss them and give them things and all sorts of cool stuff.
One of my favorite cookbooks is a very obscure title, written I think in the 40s or 50s by a Presbyterian minister called The Supper of the Lambs, where he basically has a series of recipes based upon using a whole side of lamb, as it used to be in olden times when we get sides of beef or carcasses in, and
Sure.
That was the business. The creativity of the chef was fundamentally challenged and honed by his ability to be able to use the whole animal and what came out of that, because nothing went to waste. So,
So we sit here and we what we kind of make fun of, for example, homeowners that are always wanting convenience, right? Oh, they just want convenience.
Sure.
They just want convenience. Why don't they come to my restaurant, where you have a sit down and you actually, have to order, and why do they go to Burger King and McDonald's or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And yet what we find is more often than not, the chefs running these restaurants that make jokes about consumers always wanting convenience. Well, these chefs are the same way. They want convenience too.
Absolutely.
Give me a box of breast. I don't want, I don't want anything but filet mignon or New York strip or whatever. And nature doesn't work that way. We got to work with whole things.
Yep.
And so as creative as we've been at being able to produce it in volume without being in a confinement house and antibiotics and vaccinations, the culinary industry needs to be just as creative to meet us part way and say, okay, you've been creative that way, we'll be creative in using the whole critter.
As I stand before you, my people, on this day of jubilant celebration, I say to you, will we find the devil in the bushes? No. He will be perched high on the peace tree, devouring the sucking the fruit as the poverty weeds lay waste in the field. So revel not in the fascinations of man and realize the accountability of the just and unjust. For at that moment, may we all be caught up like a rushing wind to meet on that jumbo jet flight we call life.
So alone, I just wish a chariot would take me home. Then I fell down on my knees. I said, brother, would you please put a smile on my face, 'cause it's been gone too long. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the spirit hits you? Hey, now what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the spirit hits you? Hey, now what you gonna do? Can I leave my family fortune and still take on no more care? Will the next pair that I take reveal it there? Could you lend a hand for me? Take all my wants and not my needs. I wanna lay my riches up on the other side. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the spirit hits you? Hey, now what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the spirit hits you? Hey, now what you gonna do?
Okay, so let's say that we don't. Let's say as a group of people, we stay blissfully ignorant about the opportunities out there. To paint the picture of what the alternative might look like, might be something like, Chile and Argentina to continue to cut down rainforest in order to put up pasture lands for cheap beef. I actually visited a meat processing plant in Fort Morgan, Colorado, a dozen years ago, and I thought that was, it's funny, you walk through the entire plant, and then the folks who run the plant, the first place they take you out to lunch where they have beef. I never felt closer to turning to a vegetarian that day since then. But it seems to me that we as a culture, as a craft, have, and I don't want to paint a broad picture, so I'm going to take it on my nose and say that one of my fondest memories was when my first wife and I went on our honeymoon. We actually stayed in Germany and stayed at a family chalet in the Black Forest, and there was a little restaurant right across on the other hill, and right about 2:30 in the afternoon, I would see the chef come out of the back door with a basket in his hand because he spent the next couple hours foraging, and then brought all that back to the restaurant. And in my mind, that painted such a romantic picture of what it must be like to be a chef and to actually be working and integrated with the land. Yet coming back to the United States, my experience has been more industrial factory production, which I happen to be good at. Yet, and I could raise a family and get paid a salary and raise a family. But certainly, maybe I'm just old enough to want to care now. That maybe I've again been part and parcel of the problem instead of the solution. So
yeah, well, it's certainly vulnerable. It's certainly indicative of vulnerability, which is one of the bases of good leadership. For you to recognize that, and the truth is that all of us have our vulnerabilities. Some people, for example, crucify us for raising, for example, Cornish cross broilers. You're supposed to raise, heritage, heirloom, this, and I always respond that, well, we're in a context, and our context right now is the double-breasted, heavy-breasted bird.
Right.
Our ancestors, like the legs and thighs and broth, almost more than the breast. But this is where we are, and the reality is a market will only let you go so far out of context before you become
irrelevant.
Irrelevant, yes.
Yep.
I mean, like it's you can be a nudist and you can be a Buddhist, but a nudist Buddhist, you just it's weird. and so we have to appreciate where we are. Now, interestingly, we're now hatching a lot of our own pullets for eggs. We'll hatch, 6,000 this summer, I guess. This has been a 4-year process of starting with a few hundred and then going on up to where hopefully we'll be doing all of them. And of course, as you know, that means there's a lot of roosters because you're about 50-50.
Sure.
And of course, roosters don't lay eggs.
Right.
And so what do you do with those? Well, in the industry, they just throw them away, just throw them in barrels and get rid of them.
Yep.
But we're trying to close that loop and explaining to our customers, okay, if you want eggs for your table, then, and you don't want all the brothers of the sisters that are going to lay the eggs, if you don't want the brothers dishonored by just being thrown away, well, you need to eat about 4 roosters a year in order to have enough eggs for your household, to have 4 sisters that will lay your eggs for your household.
So that seems pretty reasonable.
That seems very, very reasonable. And what's been fascinating is that our customers have risen to the challenge. Now, we don't know if they'll go to 3,000, but they've definitely come on up, to a lot, 1,000 or more, and we're hoping we'll punch through this next level. But people like to feel. I think people enjoy feeling that they can step into a story, a righteous, a sacred story, a helpful story, that they can step into it and participate in it. And that's part of the story that chefs can tell. Chefs are the first, they're the first food storytellers.
Right.
And to be able to take that mantle and appreciate that responsibility and leverage the special place that you have in a respected, honored, revered profession within the food sphere is really a privilege, in my opinion. And I think too few chefs sell themselves short in the power that they have and the chance that they have to inspire and move people to this participatory. It's very cool.
It's fascinating that you mentioned that, Joel, because I totally get that. From time to time, chefs, including myself, have kind of shied away from, say, the activist role or the teacher role, because I think sometimes we delude ourselves into thinking that the relationship isn't as dynamic as it could be. That when folks come to us, they actually want to hear the story. They actually want to be sold. They actually want to be led through the menu. They don't want to be. It's a very dynamic relationship. And so I remember clearly in the early mid-90s, I was working in South Florida, and the swordfish population was collapsing. And all of a sudden, swordfish prices went through the roof, and instead of like the markers, the 400-pound markers, they were bringing in 100-pound pups. And what we discovered is that female swordfish needs to get to age 7 before she even starts to produce eggs. So what they were doing is they were continuing, because swordfish was so popular and we were so ready to buy it, they started just catching all the swordfish they could get, which means fewer females, which means no more pups being, and the whole population crashed. So we as a culture got together in South Florida as chefs and said, we're sorry, we're not going to buy that anymore. And within about 18 months, that swordfish population came back because the salespeople could not sell any swordfish to us. So it finally got back to the fishermen that they better switch to another catch because they're not buying any swordfish. So I'm just curious as to whether or not our listeners, the fellow culinarians listening to this particular show on the podcast, really realize the economic weight that we wield as a culture and as a craft to help shift some of the conversation about what it really means to be sustainable, local, regional, natural, instead of, like as you say, buying 10 birds and just putting it on a chalkboard as kind of like my token attempt at being locally sourced.
Yeah. I'll tell you, we have found over the years, we've been in this now for decades, and we have found that if we're very transparent about an issue, whether it's a spike in prices because maybe there was a low grain harvest, or a spike in prices because there was avian flu and all the hatcheries got quarantined and we're having to change sources of chicks, name your issue. That every time that happens, we are very transparent with our patrons, and they're actually eager. If you have if you have trust, people are actually eager to help you be successful, to help you in your vision, in your sacred mission, if you will. People don't shy away from grand schemes, and from people like to feel like they're able to be a part of something big and something noble and something awesome. And I think too often sure, people are frustrating. They're picky. They send stuff back to the kitchen. I get that. It's easy to hate your patrons, right?
Right. And your employees.
Yeah. Right. But if we could get punch through that, and I agree with you, and realize the the impact that we can have, suddenly going to that kitchen becomes just a real unique opportunity to move the needle forward. I mean, name your needle, whatever it is, but that's a neat thing to do, but it takes communicating. It takes communicating the vision, communicating where we want the needle to go, and it's over and over and over and over. There's a rule of thumb that in marketing it takes 6 touches before somebody buys something.
Sure.
So you have to is 6 touches, and so think about that. What that means is that one annual pull out the stops, explain what we're doing day doesn't get the job done. It has to be over and over and over. And of course, this is what Chipotle has done, right? I mean, they put it on their napkins, they put it on their wraps, they put they put it on the marquees. I mean, they've been very, very aggressive, and of course, this is one reason why they have so many enemies in the industry, is because they've been very, outspoken about what they're trying to do and messaging it. And in fact, many of us think that they were actually sabotaged during that, food outbreak.
Sure.
And they've literally taken tens of thousands of swab samples. This is the first food bacteria outbreak of a major type that they've never been able to find a smoking gun on. And that points even, more closely to something, sabotage, probably, in the fresh sliced lemons that were just out on the counter that people used, to put in their drinks.
It's fascinating that you should bring up Chipotle, because I know as, sometimes as a chef in there, it's very easy to become insulated in your environment and think that, the problems that you're dealing with are unique to you or unique to the particular establishment. And sometimes it feels like it's very difficult to make any kind of positive change, whether you want to or not. Yet here's a company like Chipotle who's made it one of their core missions to actually change the way that pork is raised in this country.
Yes.
And
you're exactly right. And they're having they've certainly made a change in the industry on the production model, and now, lest I be accused of being too much of a cheerleader, I challenge them to move forward with GMO-free, genetically modified organism, free grain. They've made a big deal about their produce and all that being GMO-free, but they
grain.
still buy, millions and millions of dollars worth of grain, GMO. We pay extra for GMO-free, and so the 2 restaurants that we supply, the one in Harrisonburg and the Barracks Road Shopping Center, one in Charlottesville, those 2 do have GMO-free pork, but the others don't. And there again, that's a place, and I'm sure they're working on it internally, but that's a place where they could really bring some power to bear in the whole farm space by aggressively, moving toward GMO-free. That would be very cool.
yeah, I mean, and for a nationwide system to be able to act kind of like microcosmically in their geographical areas, I guess proves the point and takes away the argument that any chef would have, regardless of where his restaurant is, that he can't actually act locally. Because here's a national chain that's made it their business to act locally, and we're going to tell ourselves that we can't. I mean, that's just bullshit. We're just making it easy on ourselves. And it's funny that you should bring up wheat, because I just saw you the other night when I did a free online screening of What's with Wheat, the new documentary, which was very fascinating as far as GMO grains and not only GMO grains, but also that entire chain of events that happens with everything that they spray on it and the glyphosate and everything.
Right.
And so you made a comment in it, if I remember correctly. This whole idea of the symbiotic relationship between agriculture and animals, and how you need to have them both together, whereas most of our food systems are starkly separate, which in fact, I think if I recall separately, you call them dead zones. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, what happens is that when you use artificials to grow your crops, whether it's grain or cotton or whatever, and you segregate, you separate the animal from the plant, so that you're having to compensate what the animals bring to the equation with synthetics. The ecology doesn't metabolize that nearly as well. And so what you have is toxins into the soil. You have reduced bacteria, mycorrhizia and mycelium and everything that's in the soil, which means the soil can't hold nutrients. It's not as spongy. It's not as resilient. It doesn't have the carbon and all that in it. And so then a lot of this runs off, and that's, of course, what's created the dead zone the size of New Jersey in the Gulf of Mexico. That dead zone has come since World War II. I mean, when you think of the continuum of history and all the bison and all the passenger pigeons and the prairie chickens and the elk and the antelope and the things that grew on this continent, actually with more pounds of animals than we produce in the United States today. So it was extremely productive. And you realize that this dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico has only come since World War II. You realize, as you mentioned at the very top of the interview, the trajectory, this trajectory that we're on is an unsustainable. It's a trajectory straight to, annihilation, and we can't just stop it where it is. We have to actually reverse the trajectory so that the endpoint changes.
Yeah,
and that is going to take a fundamentally integrated system, so that we integrate. And here I'll go to one of my favorite soapboxes. In the perfect world, we would have a little chicken house. I mean, like maybe 20 chickens or something behind every restaurant, or 50 or something, that would eat all the kitchen scraps, and then the eggs would go right back into the kitchen. Now you don't have to have the delivery guy or the farm that even puts the food on a diesel truck.
Right.
You don't send the scraps away, even if they're going for composting. I mean, as noble as that is, to actually integrate things. And I realize that in metropolitan areas this might be a little difficult, but you don't do until you think, and you don't do until you talk. You don't talk until you think. So you have to conceive of what does an integrated system look like. And the man there in the German Black Forest that you described on your honeymoon, I guarantee you, he was not getting eggs from a factory farm 1,000 miles away. He might have had a little chicken coop out there, behind the restaurant, and they ate the kitchen scraps, and he brought the eggs back into the kitchen. That's very, very likely. And so when I say integrated, I mean to do it commercially, yes, but there are a lot of wastes and scraps and what inefficiencies in the system that we cover up with petroleum, with cheap energy. We cover up these inefficiencies in the system. We think we're really efficient, but actually we're just floating on oil.
Right, which brings me to the next question is, do any of us actually know what real food costs, given all the subsidies?
That's such a great question. And
do we really know what a pound of chicken is supposed to cost without, because we get really used to crushing food cost numbers, and if it gets to the point where it's $3.23 for a chicken breast or versus $4 for a chicken breast, all of a sudden you've got someone looking over your shoulder going, well, why are you buying it so expensive? Well, you can get it so cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there are all sorts of, as you know, the term externalized costs in the system, and those externalized costs are everything from service staff that gets a $2.60 minimum wage and depends on tips, to farmers that are receiving billions of dollars in subsidies for cheap corn and soybeans and that sort of thing. Actually, they're trying to move away from subsidies and calling it crop insurance, but that's just clever speak. And so there have been some interesting things. This spring, actually, I participated in an international consortium in San Francisco called the True Cost Accounting Conference, and the whole goal of it was, what is the true cost of this? And the speakers were fascinating. Like I spoke at one session, but one session that I sat in on was the end of a research project in North Carolina, researching the spheres of health issues that come in a community when it has a pig factory. They've got a lot of big industrial pig farming in North Carolina.
Yes, they do.
And it was really, really fascinating. The research teased out every possible other cause, other justification, all the things, and things from heart disease to dementia, every single morbidity issue,
index,
index literally spiked where these houses were, and of course the more proximate you live to them, the more dramatic the spike was. And so there are insidious things happening that, of course, we don't capture the cost in. Insidious things, everything from fecal particulate floating in the air to, tainted groundwater, to just the association with all this. And so, there's a lot of things going on that is hard to measure. And, of course, we know that the omega-3, omega-6 ratios are completely different.
Sure.
The riboflavin rates, grass-finished beef, for example, 300% higher in riboflavin. Riboflavin is the calming nerve fatty acid that makes you calm instead of, shooting somebody or making road rage. And you wonder sometimes, why is everybody on edge? And a lot of it is that we're not getting these essential fatty acids because we've taken shortcuts with our soil, with our food, and with our farming. Hence, then our food, it boils down to something that simple. And these are intricately related. I think your question is so pregnant because I don't think we've begun to wrap our heads around all of these nuanced ramifications from pollution to soil erosion to taint to carbon in the air. I don't think we've begun to scratch the surface on these nuances. And we certainly are not the first civilization to
wrestle with this. Yeah.
The rise and fall of civilizations for a long time has been based on resource depletion.
Right.
It starts and it rises on resource availability, and then depletes the resource, and the civilization collapse. I mean, guns, germs, and steel collapse. Jared Diamond and these guys. This is all well documented. I think what's different now is the sheer capacity that we have with technology to do more damage faster than any other civilization. And that's of course what we're seeing with the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. In fact, there are 700 riparian dead zones in the United States alone, and these are huge things. The Chesapeake Bay, which used to have, when the Jamestown colony was founded there, they found the garbage pit for the first Jamestown fort. And the garbage pit, they read these diaries of these, Captain John Smith and stuff, and these diaries of how they could. The Chesapeake Bay was as clear as the waters in Jamaica, and you could look down, you could see down 100 feet. It was just crystal clear. Well, nobody in recent times can ever remember anything but turbidity. And in the Chesapeake Bay, you can if you put your arm down in the water there, you can almost see your fingertips to your elbow, but that's about as far down as you can see. And they wonder, how in the world could the water have been this clear? Well, they just found in the last 10 years, they found the garbage heap for the fort. They thought it was, way out there in the water somewhere, but they found out that actually they found the fort. They found every single palisade hole, and they've been able to recreate it. And what they found in the garbage heap were 12-inch oysters shells.
Right.
12 inch. Can you imagine a 12-inch oyster? And so the thing was, oysters are like they're like the kidneys of the ocean, right?
Right.
And so the Chesapeake Bay was full of these big, massive 12-inch oysters. Well, no wonder it was clear. It was clean. What I'm getting at is that this accelerated degeneration, which has happened with mechanization and technology, is fairly new. I mean, at least old civilizations, it took 800 years,
right?
To collapse, and here we are. We're using up our stuff, way faster than that. So it's time for pause. And I guess my bottom line on this about the externalized cost is, I think it's fascinating that in our Western accounting systems, we don't have a way in accounting to capture these externalized costs. If I dump a bunch of chicken manure out in the stream and pollute the stream, the cleanup cost does not come off of our gross domestic product. The cost of that cleanup adds to our gross domestic product, so that sickness becomes a national asset.
Instead of a right.
Disease becomes a national asset instead of a national liability. And if that isn't a wacky way to conduct accounting business as a culture, I don't know what it is.
So, Joel, I have both a practical and a philosophical question for you.
Okay.
So you've got 550 acres in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley. Is it reasonable to expect that there is a limit to the amount of production that you can see on that 550 acres and still be sustainable?
Well, I'm sure there is a limit, but we have not even approached that limit. And let me explain it this way, lest somebody think, oh my, he just slipped over the slippery slope of conquistador mentality.
Right.
We do have numerous what should I say, benchmarks or boundary protocols. For example, let me just give you a couple of examples. One is that we don't want to sell hay or buy hay, which means that the herbivores have to harvest all their feed and produce all the fertility to produce that feed in situ, on site, okay? All right? We don't want to be in the manure hauling business. So if we produce more manure, for example, nitrogen, than the land can handle, then that shows that we're producing too much manure. Like, if we're bringing in feed, for example, to feed the broiler chickens or egg layers or whatever, or pigs, the omnivores. We don't bring in any grain for the cows, but bringing in grain for the chickens. So the manure load becomes a benchmark of sustainable okay, so those are some specific things. Then beyond that, you have all the stackable potentials. For example, we could have 50 acres of orchard. We could have 50 acres of vineyard.
Timber.
We're running pigs in the forest. Spanish style acorn fattening. Well, my goodness, we've got 450 acres of forest. We're right now only running pigs in about 80 acres of that. Well, we can expand that to the whole 450 acres if we had higher water tapped, which is what we're working on right now, building ponds on up, in the higher elevation so we can get gravity-fed water over more acres so we can get water. We don't want to be hauling water to the animals. So you have both horticultural and animal development that can happen. I mean, we only run the broiler chickens on roughly 30 acres. Well, we could run them on 100 acres instead of just 30 acres. So we feel like, we're only scratching the surface as to what could be produced. And so there's a tremendous amount of, expansionable opportunity right here, even with as much as we're doing.
Right, and I guess it was kind of a red herring or a straw man question because, I think that you'll agree that one of the most defining qualities of American life has been this kind of drive to do better, to be bigger, to, hit that with the westward expansion and everything, that it's kind of in our nature to, build a bigger restaurant, to put more seats into it, to make it a chain, to systematize it and continue to, reap the benefit of more and more customers. And I guess generally speaking, the philosophical question is, given the present paradigm of our food production and the way that we prepare and sell food, how much is enough? I mean, I don't mean that, that when the collapse comes, we're all going to be kind of like going around in horse and buggies like our friends in Pennsylvania, but I mean, I can kind of see some sense into that. So is it enough for me to have, 40 seats in a restaurant and be open 5 nights a week, and or does that profit motive still, is that an imperative anymore, or should it be?
Yeah, well, yeah, all great discussion questions. One thing I would say is that, again, we're in a context, and our context right now is not Little House on the Prairie. We now have, and I won't get in a huge political discussion here, but we have a very cash-oriented, a cash prejudicial, and I mean pro-cash prejudicial situation, from minimum wage to workman's comp to FICA, withholding taxes. There's a tremendous amount of governmental manipulation and penetration into the marketplace. When Paul Ingalls said, "Well, I don't need any money to build a door for this cabin. I'll just put it together with wooden pegs. I don't need to buy nails." Well, he was living in a day before the Internal Revenue Service.
Right.
And so he didn't need to earn money for taxes. And so what I'm getting at is that all of this, regulatory environment does make it more and more difficult for a business that doesn't want to share that value as the be-all and end-all, all the things that you described, bigger, faster, better, systematized, sell to Google or whatever. If you, to use a biblical term, if you eschew that whole, Wall Streetification, if you will, the system is prejudiced against being a square peg in that round hole, and daily it's becoming more and more difficult to just be a Paul Ingalls and do only whatever, just what you want to do, and not interact. Okay, when you think of energy and communication and transportation and the financial structure, it's more and more difficult today not to marry all of that, as a business person.
And that's our interview with Joel Salatin of Polyface Farms from the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. If you want to learn more, pick up Michael Pollan's The Omnivore's Dilemma. He's been featured in articles and symposiums and talks all over the world, sharing his views on a biodiverse farm. Consider finally that it's just some stuff on a plate. None of it really matters. It doesn't define you as a person or make you any more special or less than anyone else. It's just a dance that we're engaged in, so we might as well laugh and enjoy every bit of it, even the crappy parts, while we're doing it. Or didn't you know that the purpose of your life should be to enjoy it? Chef Life Radio is a production of Foodworks Incorporated, your source for culinary career empowerment at foodworksinc.com and in partnership with Audible. For listeners of Chef Life Radio, Audible is offering a free audio download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Click on the ad in the show notes to grab something that can shift your trajectory forever. Tonight we recommend Ego is the Enemy by favorite Ryan Holiday. It kicks ass. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Chef Life Radio. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Chef Life Radio for your free audiobook. The Heirloom Foundation, a registered 501(c) nonprofit organization that is combating the prevalence of issues like suicide, substance abuse, and the emotional impact of long hours in a perfection-obsessed industry. They bring culinary professionals together to increase awareness about the repercussions of the high-stakes, high-pressure lives of chefs through public outreach, networking, and benefit events. The Heirloom Foundation advocates for healthier work environments through their network of chefs, restaurateurs, and other industry stakeholders who commit to providing a healthy, supportive restaurant culture. They reinvest in our communities through direct service grants to nonprofit organizations that address mental health, stress management, work-life balance, substance abuse prevention, life skills, and other relevant issues. Learn more at theheirloomfoundation.org. ChefsWithIssues.com, Kat Kinsman's site that deals with real issues in the real world of depression, anxiety, addiction, eating disorders, and more running rampant in the food community. On the site, she invites people involved in the industry, not just chefs, to share their stories and resources for dealing with the pressures of restaurant life, so that other people may feel less alone. This is not for profit. This is just because she gives a damn. You can get involved and share your story at ChefsWithIssues.com and Entrepreneurial Chef Magazine. From idea to open for business, EntrepreneurialChef.com is building an online community where entrepreneurs in the industry can share lessons, best practices, and actionable advice for greater lasting success. Visit EntrepreneurialChef.com, join the club, and get your free copy of the 10 Rules of Entrepreneurship. And you can connect with us on Twitter at @ChefLifeRadio, Facebook.com/ChefLifeRadio. Stand tall and frosty, brothers and sisters. Until next time, here at www.chefliferadio.com, be good and do good. And leave the hall light on, honey. I might be a little late.
These empties, Lord, as soon as I find where they lay, tied off them jolly and leaving mines on a long hot summer day. And for every day I'm working on the Illinois River, get a half a day off with pay. Oh, towboat picking up barges on a long hot summer day. A gal in Pekin, she's a good old gal, okay. Oh, she's sitting there waiting by a window fan on a long hot summer day. For every day I'm working on the Illinois River, old towboat picking up barges on a long hot summer day. And for every day I'm working on the Illinois River, get a half a day off to the bay. Old towboat picking up barges on a long hot summer day.
In case you didn't realize it, we just got our asses kicked in there, man.
That's right. We'll see you next time. Love you like sin, miss you like poison. This is Chef Life Radio, and I'm out of here.